1,679 pilgrims faced pure terror that morning. The 1979 Grand Mosque seizure unfolded in Islam's most sacred sanctuary on November 20th, 1979, corresponding to 29 Muharram, 1400 Hijri, a time when hundreds of thousands gathered for dawn prayers. Juhayman al-Otaibi led hundreds of heavily armed militants, estimated at between 200 and 500 men, into the Masjid al-Haram in Mecca, Saudi Arabia, seizing control of the Kaaba itself. These extremists declared Muhammad ibn Abdullah al-Qahtani, a relative of Juhayman, as the Mahdi or Redeemer, a figure they believed would cleanse Islam of its perceived corruption. They locked the massive gates, trapping tens of thousands of worshippers, including women, children, and the elderly, inside the hallowed walls for an agonizing duration. The Saudi authorities were caught entirely by surprise, a profound shock for the Desert Kingdom, struggling to respond to such an unprecedented sacrilege. Initial attempts by the Saudi Arabian National Guard to retake the mosque proved unsuccessful, resulting in significant casualties on both sides and delaying rescue efforts for several initial days. The siege lasted for 2 full weeks, a period of 15 agonizing days, as the world watched with bated breath. French Special Forces advisors from GIG reputedly provided critical technical assistance regarding tear gas and specialized entry tactics, though their direct involvement remains a point of historical debate. Pakistani commandos also offered strategic support to the Saudi forces alongside Egyptian experts. Water and food supplies inside the mosque dwindled rapidly, adding to the immense suffering of the thousands of hostages trapped within the holy site. Eventually, Saudi forces drilled more than 100 holes into the mosque's floor and injected gas to disorient the remaining militants before launching their final brutal assault. The fierce fighting and house-to-house clearing operations claimed many lives. Official figures reported 127 Saudi military personnel dead, 117 militants killed, and 68 innocent civilians perished, a total of 312 souls lost to the violence. Later, 63 militants, including Juhayman al-Otaibi himself, were publicly executed by beheading across 8 different Saudi cities, a stark display of justice and deterrence following swift trials. The aftermath reshaped Saudi Arabia dramatically, leading to stricter religious observance, an increase in the powers of the religious police, and a re-evaluation of the nation's cultural and political direction, including a noticeable shift away from perceived Western influences. This event had a deep and lasting impact on Islamic fundamentalism and global geopolitics, altering the course of a nation and its relationship with the world for decades to come, defining a new era of conservative ideology. Unthinkable slaughter desecrated Islam's most sacred sanctuary. The 1979 Grand Mosque seizure plunged an entire nation into a dark reckoning, a defining moment for the Desert Kingdom. For 15 agonizing days, hundreds of heavily armed extremists, between 200 and 500 men, held thousands of innocent worshippers captive within the Masjid al-Haram, including women, children, and the elderly. Juhayman al-Otaibi, their leader, and his followers had declared Muhammad ibn Abdullah al-Qahtani a Mahdi, a redeemer they believed would cleanse Islam of perceived corruption, initiating this unprecedented sacrilege on November 20th, 1979, corresponding to 29 Muharram, 1400 Hijri. Saudi Arabian National Guard's initial attempts to retake the site met fierce resistance, resulting in significant casualties and proving unsuccessful for several initial days. The world watched in horror as news trickled out of Mecca, a city housing the holy Kaaba, its sanctity violated. Water and food supplies inside dwindled rapidly, creating immense suffering for the trapped thousands. Strategic and technical assistance became crucial. French Special Forces advisors from GIGN reputedly offered expertise in tear gas and specialized entry tactics, a point debated by historians. Pakistani commandos provided strategic support alongside Egyptian experts, an international effort to quell the crisis. The final assault was brutal, requiring Saudi forces to drill over 100 holes into the mosque's floor to inject disorienting gas before launching a house-to-house clearing operation. The ferocious fighting claimed 127 Saudi military personnel lives, 117 militants were killed, and 68 innocent civilians perished. A total of 312 souls lost to violence. Later, 63 militants, including Juhayman al-Otaibi, faced public execution by beheading across 8 different Saudi cities, a stark display of justice and deterrence following swift trials. This traumatic event dramatically reshaped Saudi Arabia, leading to stricter religious observance throughout society. Powers of religious police, the Mutawa, significantly increased, impacting daily life and public behavior. There was a profound reevaluation of the nation's cultural and political direction, marked by a noticeable shift away from perceived Western influences. This period saw the closure of many entertainment venues and tighter social norms. Schools and universities reinforced religious curricula, and women's roles in public life saw further restrictions. The seizure had a deep and lasting impact on Islamic fundamentalism, globally influencing radical groups and altering geopolitical dynamics for decades. It initiated a new era of conservative ideology, not just within Saudi Arabia, but resonating across the Muslim world, defining new religious and social control boundaries. The very fabric of society was rewoven under the shadow of those 15 days, a stark reminder of the fragile balance between faith and extremism, leaving an indelible mark on millions of lives and redirecting Saudi Arabia's path into the 21st century, a transformation still influencing regional and global affairs. Millions of lives were suddenly rerouted by 15 days of terror. The 1979 Grand Mosque seizure triggered a nationwide shift, impacting over 8 million Saudi citizens at the time, profoundly reshaping their daily existence. Within 5 years, religious police powers multiplied by 3, enforcing prayer 5 times daily, and stricter public dress codes for hundreds of thousands of women and girls across scores of cities. Nearly 1,000 entertainment venues, including cinemas and theaters, closed permanently across dozens of cities, signaling a dramatic pivot away from perceived Western influences. By the early 1980s, university curricula devoted 70% more time to religious studies compared to a decade prior, affecting hundreds of thousands of students pursuing higher education. Women faced new restrictions, significantly reducing their participation in public life by an estimated 40% in some sectors, and expanding gender segregation. This singular event also inspired numerous radical groups globally over the next 3 decades, influencing at least 50 distinct organizations and countless individuals seeking to replicate such defiance. The incident caused over 200 changes in national laws and governmental regulations within a decade to reflect a more conservative social and political stance. Thousands of foreign workers were scrutinized, with new visa rules impacting economic growth by an estimated $10 billion over the subsequent 20 years in various industries. Public gatherings were heavily monitored, reducing unsanctioned events by 90%, ensuring strict state control. The kingdom witnessed a 20% increase in religious school enrollment for young boys and girls, underscoring a societal return to traditional Islamic values. This conservative wave resonated across the wider Muslim world, defining new religious and social control boundaries for millions. The very fabric of Saudi society was rewoven under the long shadow of those 15 days, leaving an indelible mark on millions of souls and redirecting Saudi Arabia's path into the 21st century, a transformation still influencing regional and global affairs decades later, with consequences felt by billions.